Hey everybody, it's Rico Suave here, and today I wanted to do a video, maybe not so much a quick video, but I want to do a video on water. And the reason why I want to do a video on water is because we use water every day, whether it's drinking, shower, cooking. Water is so important and so viable to our lives that it's very important you have a very good grasp on water and the importance of water and how to make sure you're getting the best water you can. So, good morning. Get my coffee in there. So yes, today we're talking about water. And the importance with water, few things, like I said before, viability of life, uh, keeps you healthy, being able to clean yourself, being able to cook for yourself, being able to drink water is just vital to life. So what I want to talk about is clean water and what the standards are for clean water. So I know how some people have a hard time getting a grasp on the cleanliness of water. This video is not to show you how to filter water, how to clean water, but to see what the quality of your water is coming out of the sources that you have. So we're going to look at my well water system. We're going to look at my first filtration system and then my third filtration system. So altogether from the well, which is filtered, then to my holding tank, freshwater holding tank, which is also filtered a second time, and then my third filter for drinking use. So we're going to see the quality of it coming out of the well all the way to the glass. And how we're going to do this is we're going to use a digital reader, digital monitor. Basically, I'm going to stick it in, and I'll kind of show you more of that as we go. But I'm going to digitally see how many parts per million of contaminant I have in my water. Now, for some people, you're thinking, well, what does that mean? I don't understand. Let me explain it to you. So basically, the EPA, which was established in 1974, created basically regulations. There was regulations in the 1900s, but they're more just voluntary, and there was really not a whole lot to it. So 1974 was where they really ramped up, sort of ramped up, and actually created a national federal standard, which the states had to abide by. Then in 1986, that's where they came out with 83 contaminants that you shouldn't have in your water. So as you can see, that wasn't very long ago. And then on top of that, it wasn't until 1996 where they amended it again to allow money to be loaned to communities and other states to actually hold to the standard, because if you don't have the money to hold to the standard, you can't hold to the standard. So it wasn't really until 1996 there's actually some sort of federal funding to keep your water at those regulated levels that they had already established. So in 1986 they added 83 contaminants. You know, we see that as arsenic, different kinds of bacteria, protozoas. So they said these are bad. Here's a list of 86. Then in 1996 they finally said, okay, communities that can't afford or don't have the money to reach these standards, here's a loan program to which you can lend those standards. And if you still look throughout the country, I've been in many places in the United States where these water standards still are not being held. So this is kind of a video to show you how to test your water and to see what the different levels are and what those filtration systems will take out. So as far as parts per million, this is just kind of a brief understanding of what that actually means, okay? So basically, 1 inch in 16 miles is considered 1 part per million. 1 part per million is 1 milligram per liter. So to kind of give you a reference, the EPA says standard drinking water, the standard is no more than 500 parts per million. So that would be equivalent to 500 inches in 16 miles, or it would be 1 second in 11.5 days. So 500 seconds in 11 and a half days, or 1 minute in a 2-year lifespan. So roughly a little less than 8.5 hours in a 2-year lifespan. So you can see 1 part per million is not very high. So for drinking water to be considered potable, to be considered drinkable, it has to have 500 parts per million or less. So that kind of gives you an understanding of what 1 part per million is if I had to describe it in terms of length or duration of days or time. Or if you're a car guy, I'll give you another one. 1 car bumper to bumper in traffic from Cleveland, Ohio to San Francisco, California. So think of 500 cars. Okay, so 500 cars bumper to bumper That's 500 parts per million if we had to designate the length between Cleveland, Ohio to San Francisco, California. So you can see 500 parts per million is not very high. So without further ado, let's get to it. Hello everybody, so our first water sampler we're going to be getting is going to be directly from the well. So the well water is already filtered because it's a well system. So this is going to be the first part filtration for the water that I use here in my RV. So we're going to test this water out versus the second water sample I'm going to take, which is for my second filtration altogether, and then the third filtration system that I use for drinking. Stay with me. Now we're going to collect water from my second filter and my third filter. This is the second filter. As you can see, that's coming straight from the tap. Now my third filter, which is going to be my Brita water filter. And as you can see here, I have elected to use my Magic Bullet cups because now you can easily see where the water came from. So with the mason jar, with the well, I just went ahead and poured it into the blue one. The green one is going to be the one that measures the water that's in my current holding tank that is filtered before it gets there. And my third one is the red top, which is what you just saw coming from the Brita water filter. So without further ado, let's test the water. I'm going to be testing the water with my IntelliTech water probe, digital probe, less than $12 in any local retail chain. So let's test this water. We're going to calibrate it, make sure it's at 000. First water we're testing, the well water. Two, 228. Go ahead and tap the excess water out. We don't want cross-contamination. Looks good. Next, 000, tap water. Five to 10 seconds. As you can see here, 219 parts per million. Turn that off, get the excess water out, and now finally we're going to test the drinking water from the Brita water filter. Five to 10 seconds. Tap the water off the probe. We are at 192 parts per million. And on the back of the probe, it has a little chart that kind of gives you to go by what the parts per million means and where you're at. So let's analyze this data, guys. Well, the results are in. The well water is sitting at 228 parts per million. The holding tank in my RV is at 219 parts per million, and the Brita water filter got it down to 192 parts per million. Now, I'm satisfied with those results. Not gonna lie, at first I was a little bit skeptical. From my knowledge of most well water, it's usually sitting a lot higher. But after taking into consideration the location I'm at, being over 4,000 feet in altitude in the high desert, it's no surprise that the water is as clean as it is, being the way well water is filtered, no outside contaminants as far as cities go. So in that aspect, I definitely understand why the water particles were as low as they were, which I'm 100% satisfied with. Now, why is it so important to know where your water's sitting at? Well, if you're somebody like me who can travel from place to place, being able to go out, collect a water sample, and being able to test and see exactly where you're at, it's going to give you a lot more security than just assuming that it's potable or just because it has a sticker on that says potable water. Now, yes, most places that you hook up to are going to have inspections that are done monthly, semi-annually, annually, however, local stipulation laws are for them to check. But nobody is as responsible for the overall health as you are. So knowing what you're putting in your body is very important. It's the old saying, ignorance is no excuse for, breaking the law, or ignorance is not an excuse. Your body doesn't care what the sign says, what's posted. Your body cares what's actually, in reality, getting put into it. So as far as filtering your water goes, having it as low as it was, I'm very satisfied with those results. Another thing to look at, another good reason for testing your water, even if you're living in a house and not necessarily in a recreational vehicle, is knowing when the filters in your house need to be changed, or if the water count is getting higher, you're noticing a pattern. Maybe you can call somebody, or maybe it's something that you can look at. If I take a water sample from my tap water and it's way high, and then I take a water sample from my well and it's lower than what's coming out of my tap, maybe that means that my filter needs to be replaced. Or maybe there's some contaminants that got into my holding tank, which means that I should probably flush my system and clean it out. So this is definitely a way to gauge where your water purity is at, and then from there you can start troubleshooting what the actual problem is. Maybe it's just your glass or whatever you're getting the water sample is needs to be cleaned out. There's lots of variables, but it's important to know what those variables are and work to mitigate any risks that you may have, because your drinking water is very, very important. Well, as I said before, we consume water every day. CDC states that we should at least have a gallon of water a day. So there's a lot that goes into that water. Now, I'm not here to get into what filters are the best, what's this, what's that, but according to what science tells us, reverse osmosis purifies your water very well. So does distillation. I'm pretty sure distillation is probably the best way to get the cleanest water. Now, that's the argument for another day as far as, is distilled water good for you or not, but I digress. So I hope you guys learned something. I hope you guys, have an idea of how to gauge your water quality and really look at, the different filters and different things there are to clean your water. Water is very important, as I said before. It's something that we need to survive. Every day we drink water, so make sure your water quality is the best it can possibly be. If you found this video helpful, share it with your friends. And as always, long live the Republic. And stay thirsty.